Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bun Bun. This is our From Season 3, Episode 2 reaction and review. I just want to say this from the jump. I think this episode is phenomenal. I really, really like this episode a lot.
Oh my goodness. They just need to start driving all these Emmys up to everybody's houses. I mean, Ricky's performance as
Yeah.
Kenny at the end of this episode with his mom. Oh my God, 10 out of 10. It was just a completely heartbreaking episode watching everybody's reactions. I
Yeah.
mean, even the MGM account, you guys, man, like a couple of days or a week before the first episode came out, you guys are all like, let's have a pancake photo contest. Let's everybody put together your pancakes. And, you reveal them on Sunday with the episode. I'm like, yo, you guys are killing off Kenny's mom, and you're having everybody out there being like, check out my pancakes. You guys had a pancake wake for everybody, and we didn't even know that that's what we were doing.
And
Well
meanwhile,
done. 10 out of 10. You guys trolled us.
I'm just over here crying in the club, crying
Oh,
with
it's
my
terrible.
pancakes right in front of
I
me. I'm just
know.
like tear flavored pancakes now.
I know. Darkness.
I mean, losing Tia Chan at this point is it's really, really hard. I mean, yeah, we had a great performance from Ricky. It almost feels a
Yeah.
little bit like, Harold is sort of like the head chef in the kitchen who's just constantly cooking. And in this episode, Ricky comes in and is just like, yes, chef, I'm here to help. And he's just like the sous chef, just cooking up in there at the
Yeah.
same time. But I mean, this episode delivered a lot when it comes to grief and understanding what's going on there, but also some question mark answers.
Yeah.
Did we really learn some stuff about the phone call? Did we learn some stuff about what's actually going on with Tabitha? Is she the chosen one?
Oh my goodness.
Well, before we get into any more of that, be sure to hit that subscribe button because if it's not apparent already, we love From, and we are here talking about From all season long. Subscribing is a great way to support us and also make sure you don't miss any of our other videos.
If you're also looking for some other great horror grotesquerie, it
Yeah.
just aired and we have our review up here at the channel. And later on Sunday, we have our premiere for Daryl Dixon season 2. If you're looking for a good zombie thriller, it's
Yeah.
always fun, The Walking Dead. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow us over on our Patreon. We'll have a link for you below there. It's a great way to not only support us, but you will have an opportunity to watch our Penguin reviews, which are exclusive, only to be seen over on our Patreon. They go up weekly every Monday. So thank you so much to everyone who has.
Thank you guys. Now I'm going to pull out a bouquet here at the start because I think we got to give you your flowers for calling this Thomas thing
Listen,
early.
I saw that trailer and Jim picking up the phone, and I was like, what would Fromville be doing to make Jim feel as bad as possible with that phone call? It has to be Thomas calling on the other end of it. And it was. It was really, traumatizing to watch that happen to him, but it was also like, wow, I got that right on, good for me.
Yeah.
And you also got it right because you said that you thought that he was going to be aged up a bit to where he would have been whatever age he would have been when he called, and that is what has happened.
We're going to ignore the part where I said that this was going to be an adult version of Thomas and that Fromville was playing with time. Even after this moment happened, I tried to convince myself in my brain that Thomas's voice was older and that it was like teenager or adult Thomas on the phone, and it's not. I mean, I even had this part of me that was just going truly crazy, and it's like, is somebody pretending to be Tom? No, I don't think it's somebody pretending to be I think it's Thomas, but I think the question is, how is it Thomas? How can a dead person be the person on the other side?
Was a really big episode for Jim in that way of sort of dealing with his choices because he's made some bad choices and he's been dealing with some things that were, not necessarily in his control. And here he's just being pulled in so many different directions where, Tabitha has left. He had to say, okay, you can go, but he really didn't want that to happen. Now she's missing and gone. Ethan is going into the forest looking for her. He's made this decision to leave Julie with Ethan to go do this in a place where death is around every single corner.
Yes.
There is no promise of tomorrow in Fromville. So seeing him come back and get told off by Julie like that, for me, I was like, you tell him, Julie. It's really unfair what he's done. I understand that he wants to go and find Tabitha, but the time to have done that was before she had left. Because if she's going to find a way out, or if anyone's going to find a way out, it's very unlikely that it's a big door with an exit sign and you have time to go back and get everybody else. You're going to have to go through whatever door would be there to be able to tell people that there is a door at all. It's not going to be obvious. So what should have happened is they should have just gone as a family. But that wasn't the choice that was made.
No.
Instead, Jim decides to go off. Julie's left behind. She's like, yo, like, get it together, Dad. You weren't able to get it together after Thomas died. I had to step in at 15 years old to take care of Ethan. That is not fair. You are the parent in this situation. Act like the parent. I was like, good for you, Julie. So Jim's guilt in a lot of this is really circling the drain, which I think is why that call came in, that Fromville was like, all right, Jim, you feeling extra bad about how you're taking care of your kids? Cool. We'll have Thomas call.
There's something about Fromville that is sort of able to conjure up the biggest nightmares for every character and manifest them into a form of reality. And insofar as that goes, this is the reality of it being a real version of Thomas that is on the other line, or at the very least, something that Jim is perceiving to be real, because it's forcing him now to go through the worst experience possible. Maybe it's a punishment for him trying to find some sort of way to leave. Maybe it's just that this community has just decided that it's Jim's turn to suffer the most, but he already now does. He's harbored all this guilt about Thomas.
Yep.
He's now having to harbor everything that Julie just told him.
Yes.
And let's give the writers a little bit of credit here for not writing the children on this show to be brats or annoyances, and they've always done a pretty good job with this. There's a lot of shows that don't know what to do with any character under the age of 18, and they're always terrible.
Especially teenagers. It's very hard to write for teenagers, but they've done a decent job with Julie, especially in this episode.
Yeah, they did a really, really good job, but it's now we're in this situation where Boyd went through it and then some at the end of this past episode, and now we're seeing Jim sort of be put in this situation. But I think what's going on here in sort of the larger scheme of things is that Fromville, they clearly do not want anybody else to get out. Like, I think whether this is a simulation, an experiment, a pocket universe, a question, like, no matter what your theory is as to what is going on here, the construct of this town is that you are here, you will suffer, you are not able to leave. And one of the best ways that they can do that is to pit everyone in the town constantly against each other. And that was sort of the impetus behind all the animals getting out, because there was already this debate as to what we were going to do with the animals. And now I don't think it's a coincidence, right after Julie tells off her dad, all of a sudden here comes Thomas, and now Jim's going to be so haunted and just like so traumatized by this. Sure, he will be around his daughter, but he's not going to be able to be there for her now. He's not going to be able to be there for Ethan. He's just going to be replaying this conversation again and again and again.
Yeah, which is the exact opposite of what Julie just said. And that's Fromville's way of making sure that all three of them suffer, not just Jim, but Julie and Ethan as well. But let's talk about coincidences.
Okay.
Because let's talk about the death of Kenny's mom, all trying to protect this little bit of food that they think is the last bit that they have.
Yeah.
And then magically, Kenny and Jim find this so much food that can feed them forever all of a sudden appears. So what do you guys think? Did she have to die to make this food appear? Or is it even worse than that, that that food was always there and she died for nothing? What do you guys think? What do you think?
Okay, I've thought about this a good bit because at first, when I first saw that there was all this food, I was honestly just kind of annoyed as a viewer because I was just like, okay, you guys just took Tanshan away from us, and now you're
Yep.
gonna do this. But I think that is the point. I think that this is all once again a deliberate construct from Fromville, where was this food always there? I mean, maybe in theory, but they were never going to discover it until she died. I think this is a situation where once again, the goal here is to prolong the suffering. If they wanted
Hmm.
everybody to just kick the bucket, they would have taken out Boyd at the end of this past episode. They want these characters to live a little while so that they can slowly be picked off one by one. Giving them more food is basically Fromville saying, "Okay, guys, here you go, here you go, here's a reward." But really, it's Fromville saying, "We're not done with you yet. We don't want you guys to all get taken out during the winter. So here you go. Stick around so we can make your life even worse long term."
Let's talk about Sweet Kenny.
Oh, sweet Kenny.
Oh my goodness, he was straight Kubler Ross going through the 5 stages of grief in this with his mom when he first got
Yeah.
back and was just like, he was in denial, he's just bargaining, he's, depressed, he's in sitting in the diner, he doesn't know how to like deal with what happened. He can't see his mom the way that he saw his dad. That conversation with Christy where he was just like, I can't unsee what I saw. And anytime I try to recall another image of my dad,
Yeah.
it's just that image of what the monsters did. So please, if you can like make my mom look like my mom, I'd really appreciate that. And as a former mortician, I gotta say, good job.
Mhm.
You and Jade did a great job making her look the best that you could under the circumstances. It takes talent to be able to do something like that. So mortician approved. But also then watching him go through some of these other stages, he like added a whole other stage, which is revenge. So when he's just like pouring all that alcohol in, he's like, yeah, boy, I'm gonna kill them all. I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find those monsters. I'm gonna go and kill everybody. Boyd's like, I'm in. Let's go. Let's go take care of this. And then we finally saw that final stage, which is acceptance,
Mhm.
where Boyd was like, listen, she wasn't alone. I was with her. She was strong. Her last words to me were, take care of him. He'll be alone now. And Kenny just sobbing in his arms like, Ricky, I know you're not watching this video, but you're amazing. You were so amazing in this episode.
They totally killed that scene. I mean, the entire storyline, I think, with Kenny dealing with his grief, like this is so special, but this is also what makes From as a show special, is
Yeah.
that yeah, we can come on here and share a million theories, and we're going to continue to do that. Like, let's not get that twisted. But this is still a show about these people and what these people are going through and how they're surviving during this difficult time. And
Yeah.
it doesn't really take its eye off the ball when it comes to that. And I think that's what makes this mourning process so meaningful, what makes that farewell so meaningful. And I
Yeah.
have to say here, Jade, I'm starting to come around.
He's the quietest I've ever seen him.
I am really worried that I'm going to get suckered into rooting for this guy and he's just going to be a jerk again. I
Welcome.
see you.
I think he's had a really great redemption arc
Okay, see,
and he's grown.
you are like that with Jade, and meanwhile, me with Sarah, I'm just sort of like welcome, trying to pull you in, despite the fact that she has killed people.
No, I think she's had a really good redemption arc as well.
I think that Sarah, at some point, the show does need to be like, can we just accept Sarah again? Like, do we always, every single time we see Sarah, does it have to be prefaced by the fact that you are a monster and we all hate you?
No, one of the things that you said, I think, is really true about this show, which is that, yeah, there's the horror element and
Yeah.
all the theories and all that. But this show is really about the people. And that's one thing that Donna echoed in this as well when she was dealing with her grief
Yeah.
of, losing Kenny's mom, because Kenny's mom is basically the mom of the town. She's the person
Yes.
who's feeding everybody and cooking for everybody and caring about everybody. And she is a tent pole of hope and love in this town. And everybody's very clearly broken up about it in their own different ways, as grief works. Everybody deals with it differently.
Yeah.
But that conversation where Boyd is like, what else were we supposed to do? We didn't know that there would be another way. Like, we had to save these animals. Yeah, we made a choice and it didn't work out, but we had to make that choice because the animals were the thing we needed. And Donna was like, no, the thing we need are the people. We're the thing that matters. Us together. This is a story about people coming together, people
Yeah.
that have come together in transitional periods of their life where big changes are happening to them in one way or another, and they have all ended up here.
Yeah. And I think everything the show is giving us, every conversation, I think this is going to be one of the most rewatchable shows ever when it's done, once we have all
Oh,
the
for sure.
answers. Because then we're going to be able to see how every little moment here was constructed. Like you said, these are all people going into these big transitions in their lives. And,
Yeah.
I sort of said last week that I think everybody in this town has a certain destiny that they're meant to fulfill. They're meant to do these great things, but in order to get there, they have to get through quite possibly the worst trial known to mankind. And speaking of really bad trials, let's get into Fatima for a moment here and what is going on, because this is bad.
Evil baby, are we looking at this? I mean, she has really been going through. She's being sicker and sicker.
Yeah.
She's losing her teeth. Malnutrition is setting in. Nothing great is happening to her. And then all of a sudden, she comes across the rotten food and she's eating it like she has never seen food before in her life.
Yeah.
So, what is happening with this baby that it needs rotting food to survive?
Okay, I'm just going to say this right now. Please, Fromville, do not give us an evil baby. I
No.
am done with evil baby storylines. I have seen it 200 times. It's not that interesting to me. If you want to make some sort of argument that because this town is decaying and in this
Mhm.
state of degradation, that is why the baby thrives on this sort of stuff, like
Yeah,
I can buy into that
I buy into
concept.
that.
And that also leaves the door open that this baby is not necessarily meant to be this like horrible, horrible thing, because both the baby's parents are really good people. And I want to buy into this idea that, they can bring up this baby despite these terrible circumstances and make them into something that is really special and good.
Children are really important as part of a theme of this show. The
Yeah.
only child that's there is Ethan.
Yeah.
And we are in this, Fromville, where the idea that you could even get pregnant and bring in another child, it feels, even to Fatima, where she's like, I can't even have children. So, like, how is this happening? It's just such a weird place that they're in. And then you've got the boy in white, who very few people have seen. We
Mhm.
also have the Angui children, who I think are connected to the boy in white. I've said this
Mhm.
in the last video. I think that the boy in white was part of that group of children. They're all wearing white, and he somehow escaped. And that's why he's the person that's able to bring people away from this place. And if you see him, he's a beacon of hope. He's able to get you away, but he wasn't able to get the rest of the children away, which is why we end up in this spot where there are other people that are now sort of being the light bearers to try to rescue the children and get these children out of here. So now with Fatima that we have, she's pregnant. Yeah, maybe that's what's happening. They're
Mhm.
feeding her. She has to sort of eat the bad that's in this town to be able to bring in good. I think this child's going to be really, really important.
Yes.
Like, really important. Because I also think that the Angui children are the monsters. I think that they were experimented on, or whatever happened, that they formed into the monsters that we are seeing around.
Yeah, I think what's really good about the spot the show is in right now is that we do have so many representations of evil or monstrosity or whatever you want to call them, but we also still have these symbols of hope that are out there as well, like the boy in white. Like, this is
Right.
something that we can all still sort of cling to as representation of, okay, not everything that happens in this town has to be bad. Fatima's kid does not have to be bad. I mean, one of the other kids on the show, Ethan, is very much like a symbol of optimism and hope in his own way, where he constantly wants to feel like, even if he knows this is a very bad place, he still wants to think that this is a quest that can be completed. And it's like, those are the things that kind of get us through the millions of other terrible things constantly happening.
All right, we're 20 minutes in. Let's
Yes.
talk about Tabitha and Victor's dad, who's named Henry.
Yeah.
We saw lots of theories out there about the idea that Victor's dad could actually be Victor back
Yes.
in the real world. And it's not necessarily off the table, but at this point, it feels like it's actually Victor's dad. So
Mhm.
he has a really hard time believing Tabitha, and like, let's all be real with
Yeah.
it. I think we all would if we heard that story. But
Mhm.
the minute that she mentions that saving the children in the tower, he's like, oh no, okay, so listen, my wife and I, we used to be hippies, and then we did this thing, and here we are. She's having all these sort of dreams or visions
Mhm.
of these children that are in a tower that she has to save, and she's making all these paintings, and it's, you know, the motel, the diner, like the colony house, like everything, the children, everything in these paintings, that she's like, I'm the chosen one, that I'm supposed to go to this place and I'm supposed to save these children, and I'm not the first. There were other people that have been chosen to go and save the children, and they failed at it. So now it's my turn, and now it's Tabitha's turn, but Tabitha has left. My tinfoil hat theory
Mhm.
is that because Miranda was chosen, or felt that she was chosen, before she even knew where this place was or what was everything that was going on exactly. She knew some of it. She saw them in vision. She didn't know how they connected or how it was together. Did Miranda find a way to actually get there? And she
Mm.
actually mapped out a way that she could get there. Because if she knew about all this stuff beforehand, she was having these
Yeah.
visions, either one of two things have happened. Either then she was brought there, but like everybody else was, she was driving around, she found the tree, or she found a way to actually get there, and she may have found a way out. Now, I've long been a
Mhm.
believer that Miranda found a way out. I understand, before everybody's like click, click, click on the keyboard,
Yeah.
that Victor found his mom's body by the faraway tree. I think that Fromville leaves bodies behind of people that have left. And I think that they do that to stop people from looking for a way out further. Because if Victor had never found his mom's body,
Mhm.
he would be continuing to look for her forever. But seeing the body would make him stop. So if anyone got out, I think that maybe the sister and the mother have both gotten out, but they just didn't end up back with Henry, that they ended up somewhere else,
Mhm.
and they weren't able to get to him, or they felt like maybe they wouldn't believe them, or whatever their reasons are for it. And that there is a way to get back there.
I think all of this is really, really complicated, and even in real time, I'm trying to kind of like fit the pieces together as to why certain things are happening in the way in which they're happening, such as the question of, okay, so if Miranda was able to get together these paintings without even, being in Fromville at a certain point,
Mhm.
is this why Tabitha ended up back in Camden? Like, this is a place that was significant for Victor. This is
Mhm.
where Victor was. We know everybody came from everywhere to Fromville. It's possible that Miranda and, Victor's sister, if they did get out, that they were dropped off somewhere else.
For
So
sure.
if we're really tackling this idea of destiny, and that, okay, destiny then can exist beyond just Fromville, and if Tabitha is the quote unquote chosen one, is it her connection to Victor that led to her being in Camden? This idea that, okay, eventually she's going to meet Victor's dad, she's
Mhm.
going to find a way to potentially get other people out, or at least understand more of how this is working. But, despite destiny, she still has to be the person that's capable of doing it. I just have to say in general, the entire build up to, Victor's dad kind of welcoming her with open arms, it was really well written because they took their time with it. They didn't just have him believe her immediately. And even when we got
Mhm.
to the point where we were in the basement, I did not expect so many paintings. I did not expect so many reveals. I was sitting here being like, whoa, from producers, like you're not just giving us crumbs, you're giving us a cookie that we can eat. And it's an answers cookie where we're starting to get like some real information as to
Mhm.
how this works, in that there is a way out where the outside world is trying to find a way to get people back into the outside world, and yet the inside world of From is just like, no, 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 no. They're doing the Dikembe Mutombo finger wag because they don't want people to leave.
I loved the reveal that there is somebody that's in the real world
Yeah,
that knew about this place before they had ever gotten there, and that
yeah,
they had seen the things that were there, paintings of the faraway tree, all of it is there. That she saw and knew these things before she ever got there. To me, that gives me hope that Tabitha is going to be able to find some sort of answers or some sort of way to be able to get there. Because, like I said, there's one or two things have happened. Either Miranda was chosen and she knew she was
mhm,
chosen. She has, all these visions beforehand, and poof, Fromville's like, yeah, you're chosen. We got you.
yeah.
Or she actually found the place. She found a way in.
Yeah, and I think at this point she must have found a way in, because it's just I'm still going.
It's way more
It's
interesting.
just way more interesting, and it builds up further this idea of, okay, well, there's a reason why Tabitha ended up back in Camden, because the outside world, if we're going to say that the outside world is a presentation of hope and the inside world of From is a presentation of darkness, the outside world is trying to give her hope. It's trying to give her a way to get back in
Yeah.
with their family. And if those paintings are there, eventually, with the help, hopefully, of Victor's dad, they can put some of this together. Now, is there a chance that Victor's dad ends up going back to Fromville with Tabitha and we get this? I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to handle a reunion between Victor and his dad at this point.
I would love it. Listen, this show is very dark and very
Yeah,
bleak. I mean, that premiere,
I
this
know.
episode, but like
Yeah,
there are these moments of hope in here, like Ellis and Fatima,
yeah,
and their love and how positive she is, and having these people come together the way that they do. There's enough hope in this show that it doesn't just make this show just grim,
yeah,
that all you're watching is a show that's just grim and grim and grim. And I know that the monsters are like, we're gonna break you, Boyd, and they
yeah,
broke me, and I think they've broke a lot of us watching this show. But
yeah.
because they are able to balance it with just enough hope, I need to see that reunion so badly now.
I am going to cry. I think that is the thing. I don't cry often, but when I
Oh, I'm a
do,
crier.
I'm not a frequent crier, but what my problem though is that once I'm a crier, I can't stop crying. I just keep going and going, like, even to the point where there was one point on a reality show I was on a long time ago. I don't need to go too far into it, but after I won a challenge, I just started sobbing, and they didn't show this on the show itself, but once I start crying, I just can't stop. I just keep going, and get to the point where people think it's weird, and that is what this is probably going to make me do at a certain point when I see that reunion. So that's sort of what's true. I'm just gonna
It's
stop.
not weird, it's endearing.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, the thing about where this show may be going, at least from here, is that we're going to get probably a few more answers sprinkled in, and we got some interesting ones, but at the same time, there's still like, oh, we're gonna wave these other questions in front of you.
Yeah, with the biggest one being, how is Boyd going to catch one of these monsters?
Yeah,
Like he's done now. Those monsters thought that they were going to break him, and they did. But it was temporary. He was able to pull himself together. The talk with Christy really helped him a lot. I think seeing how broken everybody in the town was, where some people weren't necessarily trusting him as much as they did, that he was this beacon of hope for them, that he was going to hold everyone together, and seeing that he really does feel a responsibility to get everybody out. And now that he is saying we are going to get one of these monsters and we are going to get answers. I think him being in that barn with them
Yeah.
was really eye-opening. I know it was for me as well because we know very little about these monsters.
Yeah.
We do know from, in the past seasons where we saw Kelly and Brian and they told the story where Kelly was like, yeah, they did this stuff to Brian and they made me watch and they left me, stuck to this tree and she of course died. We learned the tiniest bit about them, which is that they really feed off of their pain and they will prolong things. But what we learned in the barn
Mhm.
is that they are very intelligent as well. They know where people's weaknesses are and they're able to, you know, use those weaknesses against people. And they will. They're a lot more intelligent than I think we thought they were. Even pulling out the animals and opening up the barn and trapping them the way that they did. They're setting up traps now for
Mhm.
them. They need more answers. And I think that while we lost Kenny's mom, and that was
Mhm.
obviously very difficult, I think Boyd got some answers on these monsters, which is that they're crafty, they're smart, and now they're trapping them. So they need to get their hands on. How do you think he's going to get one? Because I don't know.
I think you're gonna have to find a way to use their emotional gravity against them. Where if they think they can really go in based on somebody's suffering, you have to find a way to trick them because they're very, very smart. So you have to find a way to trick them and then trap them, and then maybe you can find a way scientifically to study them to figure out like a more concise way of how exactly do you deal with them, because that's been sort of the thing every time we've seen these monsters. They're just running loose. They're kind of able to do whatever they want because of that. And this has got to be a really thought out plan. This cannot be, let's all run into the tunnel screaming like it is Braveheart. You have to
Yeah.
figure out a way to make this more specific.
Yeah. And how do you even get answers out of them? Are they going to be honest with
Yeah.
you? No, probably not. I mean, how do you really? I don't know. I don't know. And that's why going into this next episode, I am really rooting for Boyd to get one of these monsters because we're into season 3 now
Yeah.
and we know so little about them.
Mhm.
And now that we know how intelligent they are, I need more answers than this.
Okay, so this is the final question I have, and this is not anywhere near as serious or as important as, can Boyd capture one of the monsters? What's going on with this jukebox? Because, we have seen over the course of this show, this jukebox means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. We have seen it in lighter environments. In this episode, it was really, really dark when it comes to what happens with Kenny and ultimately the destruction of a jukebox. I just think this is another way that the
That's
community.
another one of his, stages of grief, anger.
Yes, this is the jukebox is basically, I think, just Fromville's addition a way of messing with people to either
Yeah.
amplify or subvert emotions, and how all of this is activated when things are timed out. Those are sort of the questions that come from the higher up here. The all brings me back to the end of season 1 and whoever was on the other line of that transmission, where I kind of wondered, is that the same person that's calling Jim in this episode? Clearly not so much. So that's kind of a dangling thread.
Maybe. I mean, maybe not, right? Like, it may not be the same person, but it feels like it might be the connection finally, right? Because we did hear that, same, hissing that was going on the radio on the phone as well. So I'm kind of like, there's a connection, maybe
Yeah.
not the same person, but maybe they're all in the same place.
Maybe that's like some sort of afterlife where people are speaking to. I don't know, because
Could be.
it could be. It's just that Thomas is dead
Right.
as far as we know, and it's just that's what makes all this hard to wrap around. Whether it's a construct of whoever's running this, or we're
Mhm.
actually experiencing something a little more supernatural. Which, let's be honest, we have monsters running around.
Mhm.
So Fromville, the rules are kind of anything is possible, though there's still a little bit of a construct clearly as to how you can leave and how you can potentially go back in.
Yeah.
But that's what we got on From Season 3, Episode 2. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, sharing theories. We have so much fun covering this show. So Hit that subscribe button so you do not miss anything more, and support us further by joining our Patreon, where we are covering exclusively The Penguin. We've got a link in the description, and thank you
Thank
to our
you.
patrons for your support. We will see you here next time.